Welcome back to Brief Recess. This is Under Oath, where we take a deep dive into a topic with a special guest.
And today we're really excited to welcome Laura Dunn. Laura is an award-winning civil rights attorney, a former educator, and a nationally recognized advocate for survivors. She played a key role in drafting and passing the 2013 Reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. She is a current member of the New York State Bar Association and is currently running for Congress to restore accountability, uphold the rule of law, and ensure government works for the people, not the powerful. Laura, thank you so much for coming.
Yay.
Welcome to Brief Recess.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. This is a great group to have this discussion with.
We met actually last week during the Courier News event. There was a debate, and I got to moderate it along with a group of other, political influencers. It was really fun.
Yeah.
I got to meet you. It was great.
Aww.
What did you think of that event?
I was very happy to be on stage. I'm sure some of you know there was 3 debates for NY-12. I was actually robbed of the stage the first time. I hit 5% in the largest poll. That's the requirement. And then the news agency decided to run their own poll that was a fraction of the size.
Whoa.
And they disqualified me, didn't invite me on. I know.
We hate that.
And when I looked up who owned them, I was not surprised to see 4 private equity companies, including BlackRock. So
Yikes.
Here we are.
I mean, private equity is ruining everything.
Yeah.
Everything they touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
So this was like one of the few debates you actually got to be a part of.
Yes.
Which is so messed up.
It is.
Because let me tell you, she ate them up. Laura gobbled them up, and it was fierce.
Yes.
And I was like, I got to get Laura on the show because she really did. Like, you were incredible. So I just had fun listening to you because you really it's tale as old as time, right? Like there was like the Nepo baby, it was like the white men got their big pitch and their moment, and you had the actual substance and credentials and the resume, and you were polished and brilliant and were saying all the right things that everyone really needed to hear, but then, of course, weren't included in many of the debates.
Well, and that's why, because no one owns me. And that's the challenge in this race, right? We have super PACs behind 2 of the candidates who are very part of the establishment. Michael Bloomberg's backing Michael Lasher. He's a billionaire. He controls a lot of the media in New York City. We also have Alex Borez, who used to work for Palantir, hugely problematic, made his fortune off working for that company during all the issues with ICE during the Trump administration, actually cashed out to live in the house he is in now. And he says he's a champion, but he's taking money from Anthropic. So it kind of feels like he's just switching AI lords and signing us up for a different program. And it's really hard when you see what's going on and you know the voters don't. And that's why I was so wound up for that debate. I'm like, if I only get one, I'm going to make it count.
And it sounds like you did.
Yeah. Hopefully.
How many people are in the race?
8 total. So people have been very frustrated because people were in and out of this race from the beginning. And it was really also part of the challenge that people came in, soaked up a lot of media attention, and then just dropped out of nowhere. People who actually fundraised really well, over $1 million, dropped out of nowhere. And it's because they were frustrated with the rigging of the system. It was very clear who was going to be endorsed by all the Democratic clubs. It was very clear that that was going to create lots of problems down the line for field operations. And what I always try to point out to people is when they're frustrated, like, why didn't you raise more money? Why weren't you on every stage? I'm like, I didn't give up. I'm right here. And if that's what you want from someone in Congress who gives up and tosses in the towel, like that's why you have the leaders you have. If you want someone who fights no matter what they're given, then you want to pick me when you go into the ballot.
I also feel like in New York, we're always talking about how progressive New York is, right? But I think when these races come around, we really realize how antiquated a lot of our systems are, how, we really are going to be a reflection of the rest of the country. Many times, like, sure, we may be very socially progressive, but at the end of the day, I think what we're seeing in the New York 12 race right now is that the deepest pockets are the ones that are going the furthest in the polls, right?
Yeah, and it's been really frustrating. So there's, all these groups that target certain types of political candidates, right? There's the women's groups, the queer groups, the union groups, and I will say all the women's groups donated to men, all the LGBTQ LGBTQ groups, donated to cisgender men. And there's 2 queer women in this race, which is like really, we were livid, when we went into our own community and we were turned away. And of course, the unions picked people who have never been union members. I've been a teacher. I was part of United Teachers of New Orleans. And that means I was in post-Katrina New Orleans, the first year the schools reopened, working alongside a bunch of teachers who have been disenfranchised for 3 years while the government figured out what to do.
Wow.
And we marched together and we fought for what was right for our kids. And when I taught on Chicago's North Side, which was largely immigrant and refugee, I was at a public charter, and it was deeply problematic in the way it was engaging with some of the teachers who were highly qualified and female and weren't getting promoted, and underqualified men were. So we unionized, and I fought the administration. So when you come in with these credentials of, I've actually fought for LGBTQ plus rights through Title IX cases. I've actually fought for women's rights. And then they're like, sorry, it's not your turn. Like, what is this turn thing? Like, isn't it the best leader?
Yes.
That's what I thought it was.
Right. Let me ask you this. You said something interesting that you went to the queer groups and you went to the groups for women and they supported the men and the cisgendered men. Why do you think that is? What do you think? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but tell me why you think that is.
It's a few different things. Like, I think career politicians are the worst leaders in the entire world because they've never done anything real, right? They've never started a business. They've never been at a school. Like, they don't have real world experience. They're in a little bubble and they're raised up to be exactly who above them wanted them to be. And so they're just kind of parroting the system. But when you run, people are like, well, we didn't see you. You weren't part of these clubs. You weren't yet a lawmaker. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to be. I was in a courtroom. I was getting a legal education. I was working on my executive MBA at NY-12 Stern. Like, I was building these life experiences that helped me see from a better perspective than most of the people. But these are 2 men that got in line a long time ago. Numerous people were like, I watched them grow up and this is kind of what they were raised for. And it's so painful when people walk up and say, I want a woman leader, like, run again. It's like, you keep getting women leaders. Like, look at District 3. We just had a special election there. That's the quote unquote gay district in your Hell's Kitchen. And there's 3 amazing women and then 1 guy, and he won by a landslide, even though Mom Donnie even endorsed one of the women. And it was kind of eye-opening to me because I had heard more from the Hell's Kitchen Dems that they wanted women leaders than anywhere else. But they were like, oh, he was loyal. He's been here the longest. It's like, if you're only going to vote for the people that you see the most and you want everyone to get in line, that's fine. Say so. Say that this is the requirement for you to have office. But if you're going to be open to other types of leaders, give people credit for being in courtrooms like I was, already working on the Hill, which no one else in this race did. Like, you have to have open credentials to have more variety of leaders.
And it's like that meme of Carrie Bradshaw, where it's like, you say you want complicated female characters, but you couldn't handle her. Like, you couldn't just handle Carrie Bradshaw or Lena Dunham's character and Girls, and people couldn't handle it. And everyone's like, we want complex female leads. And it's like, you literally are still hung up on Big and Carrie. Like, it's been 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to talk about, Epstein has been in the news a lot, and you have talked a lot about sexual violence in your campaign. So I wanted to bring you on the show, and I know you've been a civil rights attorney for a long time before your run. So I just wanted to talk about that, your hopes for New York 12, how these issues are really important to you and why, if you want to take it from there.
Sure. So I call myself the accountability candidate. My platform is very clear that I want term limits. That's both for Congress and the Supreme Court. I want to end insider trading, no more making millions off of public office, ethical standards for the Supreme Court, because we know it's politically corrupt right now. But to your point, there's all this other corruption, right? I try to keep everything in 3s because we're litigators. People need 3s.
We do the rule of 3s in court.
Exactly. But Epstein, that scandal just really breaks my heart. I'm very public about being a campus sexual assault survivor. That's actually how I found my way into politics. I never wanted this path, but this was the right path to make change. So when I experienced sexual violence, I turned around, shared my name, face story at a time when everyone was still Jane Doe. And that allowed me this amazing platform that got the attention of President Obama. And I advocated in Congress in both Republican and Democrat offices for 2 years as a law student, sharing my rape story over and over and over to pass the the 2013 Violence Against Women Act. It took everything I had. I remember I once hunted down Senator Al Franken. He was ignoring our requests. He was not being supportive. He was part of the Senate Judiciary. I found him on the stairwell and just called out to him in front of a group of 30 people and confronted him and was like, you have ignored this bill. So it really, required me to step up. And that's why I know federal law and policy is so important. And I also know what it takes. So when you look at the Epstein files, that happened in NY-12. And none of the men are talking about that. And that should signal everything for one of the biggest scandals that shows that there's foreign influence, foreign money, and really obviously despicable crimes and horrors that were being committed. And yet it's not on anyone's radar. That's the Epstein class. Filtering money and picking your candidate for them. I know both myself and the other women in this race, like, we would not tolerate this. We are from the communities that have been harmed by gender violence. We're not going to stand it. And I'm very honored that Epstein survivors have been there when I put the petitions to get on the ballot in. They were there hugging me and saying we need a survivor. So I want to be let loose on Congress. I want to tear it up. I want to call these names out. I really admire all the people who have been listing the names of the perpetrators that are in these files, but it's not enough. We have to rebuild the DOJ and we have to make a commitment because it will show us exactly what's been happening to our elections. I don't think Donald Trump won by accident. I think he won by intention, and we'll know more when we get into the Epstein files about where the money is coming from, who is behind these plans.
Oh my God.
Gosh, that's, I always, more and more I ask myself, how did we get here? Why are we in this space? Why are the lives of women and children and victims of sexual assault not taken seriously? They're not important, but we love our guns, and it just seems to me that that's happening more and more. And it feels like it's getting worse. And it's harder and harder for me personally to, I want to remain engaged. But sometimes it feels like too much. It feels like a lot. It feels like a lot. But I also know that if I don't remain engaged, then it's never going to change, which is why we have people like you. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And it must be very frustrating for you to be in this position. You're running for office and you're listening to all these stories and you're getting these sort of roadblocks because you're not a part of the old boys network? The system. Yeah.
Well, the good news is I've never been part of the system. So I'm actually kind of used to it. And I think it helps bring out the true nature of who I am and why I fight. So no matter the outcome of this particular race, I'm obviously fighting to the end. I hit 5%, 30% are undecided. It's a race literally anyone could win. But no matter what happens, I know who I am and I've grounded in that. And it's gained a lot of respect on the ground. So people who may be looking at the men saying they have a leg up, they know that I'm right behind them. So I don't think it's over. But to your point about being overwhelmed, I guess one of the weirder parts of my platform that I've talked about is being pro-psychedelics. And why that topic? It's because it focuses on healing. So there is so much unwellness in our society. We have lived through COVID. We have had political unrest.
We talk about this all the time. How we are not over COVID,
We're not.
No. We just went right back to work. We picked up that dusty pen off the desk where we left it 2 years earlier. We plugged the computer back in. And I know someone, they left their laptop charger at the office and just went back and just plugged their laptop back in a year later.
Wow.
And we have not, and we've just not looked back.
Not talked about it.
Not talked about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very traumatic experience. And I don't think that we've given it the gravitas that it deserves, right? I mean, because especially when you think back in the very beginning, for me anyway, I was convinced we were all going to die, right? I was convinced that we were living The Stand by Stephen King. That's what I felt like was going to happen. I was worried about everybody. And I was afraid. And I don't think that any of us really sat back to really reflect on what we went through. And like Michael said, we just sort of went back to work. I went back to work and my calendar was still on from March of 2020. And I went back in 2022 and I was just like, well,
should we flip?
I'm going to throw the calendar away.
I love psychedelics. And I talk about this on the show all the time. I, post-pandemic, had a really hard time going back to work, going back to the courtroom, going back to walking down the street and seeing other people's faces. It really was emotionally difficult for me. And Mélissa was there for me through and through the whole time, but I went to ketamine therapy.
Yeah.
And like my insurance paid for it. Like it was a full, above board experience. I wasn't in a warehouse in Bushwick, but it really helped me. It really helped me get to a place where I could do things like launch a podcast or, get out there on social media. I wouldn't have been able to do it without that. It was so healing.
I really admire that you're talking about that. People need to know that this is available to them and certain types are legal. I have done the more not so legal types, MDMA to heal from PTSD and psilocybin. And now I do kombu, which is totally legal. It's an Amazon frog poison.
Cool.
Yeah. It makes you violently ill. So not super cool, but for 20 minutes you're purging. And then afterwards people have visions. I have not had the benefit of those visions, but it definitely physically clears the vessel.
Amazing. Wow. I've never heard of this.
This is so fast. Again, Michael and I talk about this all the time. Like I grew up in a household where, my mother equated marijuana to crack cocaine, right?
Oh, wow.
So like
the same.
It was the same. And so this idea that you could use psychedelics as a means of healing from trauma it's weird to me because I can't imagine it. And I will admit, I'm also, I think, a little bit afraid of what am I going to remember? What am I going to discover?
When I tell people I've done ketamine therapy, that is the thing. The number one thing they say to me is, I'm afraid of what I'm going to learn about myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is honestly the only resistance people tell me when I'm like, oh, you should try it. I only had positive experiences. I cried a lot, but it was a healing, interesting journey. And what they say to me is, I'm afraid of how it will change my life, whether they'll learn that their relationship with someone is wrong for them or their job or dynamic that they're in. They're afraid of facing the change is what I notice when I talk to people.
Well, that's even happening right now, right? People want to go back to what was, and it can't happen. You have to be bold and brave and realize that there's something new and it actually could be better. And that's the best part of it, right? So my experience, the reason I kind of brought it up in response to your comment is I now kind of almost have like a divine perspective where it's almost humorous what we as humans choose to do because we really have the power to choose any leader we want, to have any policy we want. And yet we keep getting stuck in this fight of, do people deserve healthcare? Like, are we still fighting about that? Really? Like, because I think the younger generations don't have a question. We're like, yes, human beings deserve to live and to live well and not to struggle and not to die in the street. So it's very interesting that we're kind of stuck in this place, but I think we can get past it and it's just a choice. And so when all these horrors are kind of playing one by one rapidly, I'm definitely furious. And I'm sure you saw some of that power come out in the debate. Lawyers, I think, learn how to channel it and we just kind of pop it.
I tell you, Katie Couric and Don Lemon were in the green room like,
gagged.
They were like,
gagged.
Like to see Katie Couric like do snaps in the green room because we're hearing what's going on stage was hilarious. It's like, I never thought. And it was because what Laura was saying, like she really was eating them alive because a lot of what they were saying was just like political bullshit.
The sort of it was
just a lot of
the pivoting and the sort of going in circles and not really saying anything. Lots of words, right?
And then Alex Boris said that everyone on the stage had a super PAC, and Laura was like, "I would love to meet my super PAC."
It's not doing a very good job if it's out there.
She was like, "Wait a minute, no one told me. This is the first time hearing."
Yeah, well, that's what happens when people get off their talking points. They say crazy things, and lawyers, we go right in. There was actually a forum earlier that week on Monday with Micah Lasher and me, and he had the first question. It was about the definition of anti-Semitism from the Holocaust Remembrance Organization that New York had adopted, and then Mamdani had kind of struck down. And they were saying, what's your position on this definition? And he was like, I don't want to answer. This divides us more than anything else. And he dodged it. Then it came to me, and I was like, this is the lawyer training. I am ready. And I was like, isn't it a shame when politicians dodge hard questions? And everyone was like, yes. And I was like, lawyers don't get to do that. We literally walk into court to answer these questions. I'm not afraid to take a stand. I don't even care the consequence of taking the stand because I've thought deeply about it, researched it, and I know what I stand for, and I will pay the price for that. And, you know, I saw Jack Schlossberg kind of wiggle woggle on, Israel, Palestine, and try to be progressive, but also pro-Israel. And he just flip-flopped and made everyone mad, and he dropped 10 points. Yeah. And it's like, you can't make everyone happy. And the fact that you don't know that means you're not ready for office. You have to take your stand. You have to know what you're about and just know that there's a price tag for it. And that's okay. If someone wants a different leader, they will find a different leader, and your time is not now. So I have enjoyed the few opportunities I've had to really jab at these men who have come up there. And when it's just the four of them on stage, no one's throwing any punches. No one's getting into the tough issues. So I'm glad they started inviting the women.
All politically aligned, trying not to piss off anybody. Right. What do you say? I'm so fucking sick of talking about AI, but I do feel like we have to. If I hear AI one more time, I'm gonna. Right.
It's not just the fruit. It's like really important.
It's really important. And I know it's come up a lot in this race. It's not just like, what do you think about AI? I'm not like some Silicon Valley tech bro. I do feel like it has been one of the top three things that has come up randomly in this New York 12 congressional race.
Why is that?
Take it away, Laura.
Tell us, Laura.
So if it makes you less annoyed, you could say big tech generally, right? Because AI is just one issue, right? We have crypto in there. We have quantum computing. We already have social media. And I have talked about Section 230, the immunity given to big tech companies that allows them to do many things that newspapers cannot do, such as spread misinformation, tailor algorithms to create more political division. And I think we need to get rid of that. And that, I think, would solve a lot of our problems right now. But I think AI is such a big thing because it's replacing people's jobs, right? College students can't get an entry-level job. We're scared for our kids who are falling in love with AIs or being told how to commit suicide or God knows what else is happening. We also have AIs undressing women and harassing them in ways that we have never imagined before. It's the boogeyman that's out there. And Alex Borez did a state law that kind of reined that in. It's the only state, New York is the only state that's really kind of tackled the issue. But they did it because the federal government wasn't. Why is that? Because of all the money going in to deter it. So he did that. And now he has AI money coming in. And when I was on stage, I pointed out that there was 4 different AI consumer protection bills that he alone voted against as this quote unquote AI champion, which really raises questions. And I really believe he's a Trojan horse. I think he was sent to look like a hero when he's not. He's just going to set up a specific AI company, Anthropic, over that of Palantir. And it's just marketing. Anthropic's the less evil. But AI can't be reined in. Like, let's not be fooled. We can say it can, but it can't. It can't. We know it. And add quantum computing that's coming in 5 years, we're in trouble. And I think the hardest thing that I've ever said, which did not win me any favors, but I said it and I meant it, was during the UFT, the teachers union endorsement. They were asking about AI in education, and I'm a former teacher. And I said, the research is actually showing that more screen time and use of AI is impeding cognitive development. We literally have generations that are less academically successful. This is not okay. And so we have to have moratoriums. I hate to say it. We can't just implement and see what happens. We can't experiment on children. And I don't think they liked that answer. And here we are. But I mean that answer. AI is not for everywhere and everything. Maybe it shouldn't belong in, for example, wars. We really want to give lethal ability to a technology we can't control and just see what happens. Not me. So I think we can put guardrails around it. I really want to adopt the precautionary principle, which is what we have in Europe, which says you can't put something into the consumer population until you've proven it's safe. So you can put regulations around it. You can have ethical standards. We can have a whole requirement. This is what we do with drugs, right? They have to be approved before they go out. We can do something similar. And that way we find out where it's okay. And we have them investing in research. Does it impede cognitive development? Does it not? And until we have people who are willing to tell corporations that are getting $1 trillion valuations no, we're going to be stuck with whatever the latest innovation is, no matter the consequence to our children.
I hate AI so much. I'll go on the record with that. I fucking hate AI. I'm so sick of it.
Spoken like a lawyer.
I have tried it. I think it's dumb. It is not smarter. I hate it. I've tried using it for like legal briefs or for emotion or whatever. And The tea about my legal briefs and my motion is that they're from me to you.
Yes.
So once I start pumping that into AI, it's not written as me. I like a stylized motion. Her mother was beheaded. AI is not going to say that. Like, and when I put that in, like, help me draft this legal motion or like my asylum argument, I'll say that, but AI will say, respondents' parents suffered extreme hardship. Like it'll say like some sort of garbled,
watered down
word salad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hate it. I think it's dumb. I don't think it applies to everything. And I think it's overhyped and it's a bubble that's going to burst.
Well,
and I'll go on the record with that.
Yeah. Judges are kicking it out of the courtroom. People have come in with their AI lawyers and judges are like, get it out. It's not going to happen here.
Yeah.
Good. I had just a conversation with my primary care physician a few months back, and she wanted me to know that they were the doctors were under pressure to use AI for the note taking.
Yes.
And she's a pretty old school doctor. And she was like, I refused. But she wanted me to know that they must tell you that they're using it. And if I find out that they've used it and they haven't told me, I can bring charges up against them. Right. But her worry is, she says, people come to her, she's their physician, and they tell her intimate things about what's going on in their life, things that are going on with their health. And she is deeply uncomfortable with the idea of whatever AI turns into having that information.
Yeah. And it'll hear your voice. And we know AI can mimic voices. Like, I don't want to find out where the end of the story goes. But I'm with you. And a positive example of AI, though, is like breast cancer, the detection. You still need human oversight, right? But using a machine is actually more accurate than humans. So that's a great example where the research is showing it's better. Right. And it doesn't, I think, inherently replace anything.
Right.
That's
Let's invest in that.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of.
That's the balance. People act like it's all in, all out. And it's like,
there's a balance to most things, right? And we just have to find the what's going to do no harm or as little as harm as possible.
Absolutely. Yes.
So where are we in this race?
Well, I want to thank you guys for having me on. It's so important that we have new media. We know that traditional media is dying, right? We've had monopolies. We can literally, there's like spreadsheets now of like 3 companies that own, or 3 different owners for 50 companies.
And there's about to be another sale.
Merger.
Yeah, about to merger.
Goodness.
That just got approved.
I don't know how Elizabeth Warren is handling this, right? She's been calling for the breaking up monopolies for so long. That's why I backed her for a presidential run back in 2016. It's deeply problematic what is happening with our media. And I have seen a lack of critical thinking about the candidates that are offered, a lack of exploration. One of the things I brought up on the debate stage was a racist cartoon that Michael Lasher helped distribute in white neighborhoods going after Reverend Al Sharpton. And it was a horrific graphic. And we found it because even though it's been talked about once or twice, no one's shown the image. And it was to impede a Latino mayoral candidate. It was meant to have him lose. And so I am very concerned when I see Black and brown communities saying, oh, maybe Mike is the choice. It's like, if it's convenient for him, then sure, he'll show up for you. If it's not, then you're going to be used as fodder. And you should know that about your candidates, who has always stood for the communities, not come only when they need something. So I have tried to be the vocal advocate, and people like you have helped lift me up. And I really appreciate that, giving me this opportunity. I want people to really think as they go to vote for NY-12, who do you want? I have heard from many people, who do they think is going to win, which is different than who do you want? And we need to start voting who do you want, because we saw this amazing shift with Mamdani versus Cuomo. Cuomo was the old guard. It was the big money. It was the billionaires. It was this ugly attitude of, I will take what I want. No one can stop me. And we won. I love that I door knocked for Mayor Mamdani, and he has yet to choose a candidate. I hope he'll choose me in this race.
He hasn't?
Well, and it might be smart that he doesn't say who he wants to vote for, because he's not super, super loved. It was a 50-50 split in NY-12. He's loved everywhere else, but not NY-12. It's a high Jewish population, and people were, I think, rightly upset with his use of Intifada and things at the beginning.
Sure.
I think he's worked really hard to try to correct missteps and errors polls that have stoked some anti-Semitism. But I understand people who are very upset. It's maybe one of the quickest questions I get asked on the street is like, Mamdani or Cuomo? And I was like, Mamdani. And people will walk away and storm away. But Cuomo sexually harassed Charlotte Bennett, who is someone who interned for me. And I was the first phone call she made after that incident. And she said, I think I have to sue my boss. I didn't know she worked for Cuomo, but she called me to get a referral and I gave her one. So I'm never going to vote for that man. I'm so glad he's nowhere in the city from what I can tell, but he thought about entering this race. And some part of me kind of wish he did. So I had someone to punch against, because that was the beauty of the Mamdani race. There was someone to punch against. There was a bad guy. This one, I think everyone is generally a pretty good Democrat, right? And it's different levels of experience. And so why I'm saying pick who you really want to lead. Who is the new voice? Who is saying the things you haven't heard? Who is the person that's going to fight the battles versus look away? And then vote for them. Because when 30% are undecided, that swings an entire race.
It's true.
So don't count anyone out. Take your time. 8 candidates. Just research all of them. It takes a minute.
I actually really love what you're saying about stop thinking so much about who's going to win. Because I have been guilty of thinking this and being like, well, I could do this, but is my vote wasted, right? But this notion of vote for the person who you really want in the job, vote for the person that you think will do their best. If more of us think that way, the shift that we're hoping will happen, I think will eventually happen. It might take some time, but it's a better way to think about it.
A vote is a message to the establishment of where the current is going, right? And NY-12 really is the district that everyone in the country watches. It's Manhattan. It's where all the new innovation ideas come from. It's where way too much money and power have been consolidated. So even a significant shift like towards a non-establishment candidate says a lot to any establishment candidate that would win to maybe be more progressive than they're inclined to be, which is good. We want a representative who's understanding where the current is going and not just, standing by, for example, Hakeem Jeffries. It absolutely killed me. I didn't have time in the debate to make all the points I wanted, but Hakeem Jeffries has come out saying impeaching Donald Trump is no longer the priority. It's now affordability. And they're related, we can't have someone stealing $1.8 billion from IRS and then pretend like that's not going to affect the taxpayer. So it's related. But the minute that came out, Michael Lasher was in a forum for 92nd Street Y, and he said, it is a fantasy world. It is impossible. There's no world that exists in which we can impeach Donald Trump. And I was shocked. I've listened to him in every debate and I was like, where is this coming from? And then I saw Hakeem Jeffries and I was like, oh, so you have abandoned your principles that you've said in every single forum because someone said it's not our priority. And so you just shifted on a dime. You didn't listen to what the people on the ground said, because if you did, everyone wants him out. Especially after what he did with the Knicks game.
Of course.
He's gone now.
Oh my God.
He's like, where's your moral compass, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us, Laura. Early voting is happening now if you're listening to this on Thursday or watching it on YouTube. And the election is on Tuesday, June 23rd. So get to the polls. Vote for who you care about.
Laura, where can people find you on social? Why don't you look into the camera and let people know?
So LauraDunnForCongress.com is the home base, and Laura Dunn for Congress is TikTok, it's LinkedIn, Facebook. The only one that's different is, of course, Twitter and X. I'm sorry I'm still on there. It's a political necessity. Laura Dunn, NY-12. But I would love to have you follow, shoot me a message. I actually do respond to everyone who asks me questions because I want you to know who you're voting for and what my values are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you, guys.